So my child is trans. She identifies as female, and he doesn't agree with the choices that I allow her to make for herself. And when he's around, he still treats her as a boy, and he still calls her her biological name of Julius.
How old is your child? Can you repeat that, please?
She's 8.
So, before I have Ms. Benavides testify, I will bring in a child support officer, Mr. Foss, to testify to wages. The wage reports that we have are not fully complete, but I will provide the court with different options of calculating wages that are logical and that would make sense under the guidelines. You will hear regarding issues of custody or regarding issues of conservatorship and visitation. You will hear testimony from mom that indicates it is probably best that dad's visitation is limited and that she have sole managing conservatorship. But of course, that's up for the court to decide. The state is also requesting retroactive support, and I will provide numbers to that account through the wage testimony of Mr. Foss and provide the judge with the final numbers during closing argument. The state will be requesting current child support and medical support moving forward. I'm ready to call my first witness unless you'd like me to mention anything else.
No, you may proceed.
Okay, the state calls Mr. John Paul Foss. Good morning, Mr. Foss.
Good morning.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, ma'am. My name is John Paul Foss.
How are you employed?
Through the state Attorney General's Office of Child Support.
What is your position?
I'm a child support officer.
How long have you been a child support officer?
5.5 years.
And in your position as a child support officer for the Child Support Division of the Office of the Attorney General, is it customary for you to come across wage information for non-custodial parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you come across information like that in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions to try to keep it as general as possible. So, did you find any wages for the non-custodial parent here in the year of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it for the entire year?
No, ma'am. It was only the last 2 quarters.
Okay, thank you. Did you find any wages for the non-custodial parent for the year of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
For the year of 2022, what was the average, the gross monthly income for the non-custodial parent in this case?
Yearly or monthly?
Monthly.
$4,168.14.
Thank you. Did you come across any wage information for the non-custodial parent for the year of 2023?
Yes, a partial.
Okay, what portion of the year was reported?
The first quarter, the second quarter, and it was a partial the third.
Okay, can you please tell me for those 3 quarters, adding them up, what was the gross monthly income for those 9 months of 2023?
$2,756.16.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
For the 3, it came out to $2,756.16.
Okay. So you added, just to clarify, you added together the numbers for the first 3 quarters and divided by 9?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm so sorry, tell me that number again.
2,756.16. The third quarter's looks incomplete
Okay,
because it's way below minimum wage.
so the third quarter, there's a significant difference between the third quarter and the first and second quarters. Would you say there's about a $6,000 or maybe $5,500 difference?
Yes, ma'am.
My last question for you, I want to briefly go back to 2021 because we have incomplete wages there. Was there a significant difference between wages reported in the third quarter of 2021 and the fourth quarter?
Yes.
The third quarter, were the wages reported under minimum wage?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So would you say, or is it your opinion that the wage reporting for maybe the third quarter 2021 is perhaps incomplete?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Judge, I have no further questions for Mr. Foss.
All right, Mr. Foss, thank you for your testimony. You're excused.
Thank you, Ms. Morton.
Okay, the state calls Ms. Benavides. How old is your child?
8.
Are you aware if he has any other children besides children with you?
No, he has none that I know of.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask you some questions about your relationship with Mr. Adams and then your child's relationship with Mr. Adams. So, do you and Mr. Adams, do you communicate regularly?
No,
How often would you say that you communicate?
we don't.
Okay. When was the last time you heard from him?
December 2023.
And what was that communication like?
Actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. It was New Year's 2024. The New Year's Eve, he was asking money for gas for his car.
Sorry, what you said he was asking for money?
Yes.
Did he say anything else besides ask for money?
No.
Has Mr. Adams ever been violent towards you in the past?
Yes.
Approximately how many years ago was that?
I it was over 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. Did you ever call the police?
Yes.
Were there criminal charges against him?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, okay. Has Mr. Adams ever been violent to your child?
No.
Okay. Okay. When Mr. Adams does communicate with you, through what means does he do it?
He would text me.
Okay. And the last time you communicated with him was New Year's of 2024, right? Before that, when was the last? Before that, I would say, my question is, on average, how many times a year would he reach out to you? Would he communicate with you?
Probably one other time through text in 2023. We really didn't.
Yeah, you really don't communicate. Okay, thank you. Now I want to move on to your child's relationship with Mr. Adams.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you. When was the last time that your child saw her father?
2 to 3 days after Christmas 2023.
Okay. Where was he seeing your child?
At his father's house.
So you testified that Mr. Adams saw his child a couple of days after Christmas?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Was it an overnight visit or was it just for a few hours?
No, it was a couple of maybe 2 hours. We
Okay.
had to,
Before that time after Christmas, when was the last time that Mr. Adams saw his child?
so there was 3 Fridays between October and November that we saw him, only because he was living at the home that we were visiting their grandfather at.
Okay, and this was 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Before that, when was the last time he saw his child?
Probably 3 years before that.
Are you concerned for your child's well-being around her father?
Yes.
Can you tell the court why?
So my child is trans. She identifies as female, and he doesn't agree with the choices that I allow her to make for herself. And when he's around, he still treats her as a boy, and he still calls her her biological name of Julius, and it makes her extremely uncomfortable. She doesn't like to be around him. And he almost intentionally is always like, come here, boy, come here. Like when he is around her, even up until like the Christmas and like time when she was around him.
Besides that, do you have any other concerns for your child's safety?
I do believe that he's I do highly believe that he's still using drugs, the same type of drugs that he was using when we were in a relationship prior.
And when were you in a relationship?
I want to say when Jules was maybe 3.5, 4 years old when we separated. I'm not really good with time, so but it was around that time because that's when she started vocalizing that she was a female.
Okay. Do you remember approximately what year that was?
Maybe like 2018-ish or 2008,
Okay, so that is when y'all separated.
maybe like 2019, I think.
Okay, 2018, 2019. So what drugs was he using
Meth,
back?
marijuana,
Oh, sorry, can you say that again?
meth and marijuana.
And you still believe he's using meth and marijuana?
Yes,
Why do you believe he's still using meth and marijuana?
because I did have a chance to see him on the evening of Thanksgiving. He was supposed to come spend Thanksgiving with them, and I decided to visit with him solely, like by himself. And I believe he was still using because his actions were the same, very similar to what they used to be. Just like, yeah.
When you say actions, what do you mean by that?
So he used to get very like fidgety, and then he would kind of almost stay focused on like one thing really hard. Like he would just be doing something very repetitive a lot, and he couldn't like concentrate or like look someone in the face to like have a conversation. Very fidgety and sweating, even though like it's super cold in the area that we were in or stuff like that. And he did tell me that like he hadn't slept. So those are just like some of the signs that I remember from prior.
Are you requesting sole managing conservatorship from the court?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to move on to visitations. Are you comfortable with your child having any kind of visitation?
Um, I if I have to be okay with it, then like supervised, but not unsupervised, no.
Okay. Um, have you ever asked, how old is your child? Can you repeat that, please?
She's 8.
Have you ever asked your child if she's comfortable with visitation?
Yes. And she doesn't want to visit him.
Okay. Maybe for the reasons you mentioned earlier.
Yes, she feels uncomfortable around him.
Okay. Why are you uncomfortable with overnight visits?
I just don't I know um just from seeing very recently even how he was with her during Christmas and the visits that they had, he still refers to her as a boy. He doesn't even call her name. He can't even help to just be neutral at all whatsoever. Um if you could see like her face when he's doing that, is very defeating. And I don't want to put her through being around someone who's intentionally pointing out that she's biologically male to try to prove it.
Do you believe that he has stable housing right now?
No, I don't. um he was living at his dad's house for those few months. Before that he was living with his mom, but after she passed away and he lived with the dad, he was kind of back and forth until they kicked him out. So now no one knows where he's living.
Okay. If the court does decide to order visitation, would you be comfortable with supervised visitation on the first and third Sundays of the month?
If I have to be, yes.
Okay, maybe a couple hours from perhaps 2 to 5 p.m.
Yes.
Now, so can you please repeat for the court when you and Mr. Adams stopped living together? Like what
Oh,
year? What year maybe?
I think I think it was like 2018-ish. Because it was after, yeah, 2000.
Okay. And for the time that y'all stopped living together, do you know what he was doing for work?
No.
Okay.
After he moved away,
Was there any point in time where Mr. Adams had a disability and he could not work?
So yes, his mom had told me the summer that COVID started that he got shot in the foot by his uncle.
Would you say the summer that COVID started?
It was like June, like May or June.
Okay, so he was shot in the foot.
Yes.
So would you think that maybe he wasn't able to work at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Are you also requesting that your child's last name remain Benavides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you also requesting, are you requesting child support moving forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you requesting retroactive child support?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Your Honor, I don't have any more questions for Ms. Benavides.
Thank you.
Ms. Benavides, well, let me, I'll ask you, Ms. Nichols. I think I need to hear a little bit more testimony on the request for the non-disclosure of information.
Okay. Ms. Benavides,
Yes.
if your information, if your address and your contact information were in the order today, would you have any concerns for your safety?
No, he knows my address in the moment. Like, so
Okay.
no.
Do you have any, because I know that there was an incidence of family violence a few
Yes.
years ago. Do you fear for your safety now?
No. He doesn't
Why?
come around.
Because he doesn't come around.
Yeah, more so my fear is how he would treat Jules if I'm not there to be protective of her or make him mindful. But for me specifically, no.
When you say like you're afraid for your child's safety, what do you mean by that?
So he's never like been physically abusive to her. It's more of just like mentally the way he kind of digs into her that like you're a boy. It's really like I don't know how to explain that. But that I worry about that like when I'm not around. So yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify, you would be comfortable with your contact information and your address listed in the order?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. No further questions?
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. All right, did you have a closing you would like to make? I know you mentioned something about calculating support.
I do have a closing.
Okay.
Okay, so with regards to child support, Mr. Foss testified earlier that we only have wages for Mr. Adams up through the third quarter of 2023. And Mr. Foss also testified that he believes in the third quarter the wages are not complete because the difference between the second quarter and the third quarter is significant. I have two ways for the court to calculate child support moving forward, and it's up for the court to decide. One way is by calculating the gross monthly income based on those 3 quarters in 2023, adding up the income from the first, second, and third quarters, dividing by 9. If the court would like, we can move forward with those wages we do have reported for 2023. The current support amount would be 451, and I did forget to ask Ms. Benavides about health insurance coverage. And I can ask her now if the court would like.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Benavides,
Yes, ma'am.
does your child have health insurance?
She has Medicaid.
Okay. And there's no access to private health insurance through your work?
No, I work part-time, so no.
And you're not aware if there's any access to private health insurance through the father's work?
I don't know. I don't know anything with him.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions for you. You can mute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the state is requesting one of two options. And the state would advocate for the higher amount. The state advocates for calculating his child support under minimum guidelines according to the wage information we do have reported for the year of 2023, which admittedly is incomplete, but because we have nothing else, the state would request current child support going forward at $451 a month and a medical support payment of $124. If the court would prefer to go with a minimum wage calculation, because we do not have income reported for the fourth quarter of 2023 or any income reported for 2024, that child support amount would be $220 and the medical support would be $57. But the state is requesting that his wages for current child support and current medical support be calculated off the wage reporting we do have for the year of 2023. The state requested that child remain on government medical insurance. The state is also requesting retroactive child support. Ms. Benavides testified earlier that she and Mr. Adams separated in about 2018. The date that the state filed the petition was September of 2023. And knowing that we can only go back 4 years, the state is requesting retroactive child support starting in October of 2019. So from October of 2019 to May of 2020, we have no wage reporting. So the state is requesting that for those months, retroactive monthly child support would be at minimum wage guidelines, and that is $231 a month at 8 months. In June of 2020, Ms. Benavides testified that Mr. Adams was shot in the foot, and he wasn't working. So the state is requesting that retroactive child support not be calculated for June of 2020 up through the fourth quarter of 2021, because we don't have any wage reporting for him, so we can't know if he was still recovering from being shot in the foot. But the state does request that child support, retroactive child support, start up again starting in the fourth quarter of 2021. So the monthly child support payment for that quarter would have been $860 a month for 3 months. We have complete wage reporting for the year of 2022. So taking those amounts together and dividing by 12, the monthly child support payment would have been $703 a month times 12 months. For the 9 months of 2023 that we do have reported for those first, second, and third quarters of 2023, the monthly child support payment would have been $476 times 9 months. Now, we do not have wage reports for the last quarter of 2023 or anything for 2024. So I'm offering the court with 2 options for calculating that retroactive amount. If the court, because we have no wages reported for those, what would it be, the last quarter of 2023, and the January, February, March, April, the 4 months of 2024 that we do have. Because we have no wages, the court can decide to go off of minimum wage. So that would be $231 a month times 7 times 7 months, the last quarter of 2023 plus the 4 months of 2024. However, if the court wants to calculate retroactive support for those months based on the wages we do have reported in 2023 for those first 3 quarters, the monthly amount would be $476 a month. So the final amounts that we have for retroactive, if the court go for these past 7 months that we have no wage reporting, if the court wants to go with a minimum wage calculation, the retroactive support judgment is $18,765, paid out at $144 per month. However, if the court decides to calculate gross monthly income for these past 7 months based on the wages we do have for 2023, the child support judgment would be $20,480, paid out at $152 per month, and those should be the calculations unless the court has something different.
Ms. Nichols, Ms. Benavides, did you have anything else you'd like to add to your testimony?
No, ma'am. Sorry. No,
All right. Okay, Ms. Nichols, finding the record, just for the record, in terms of service for Mr. Adams, Mr. Adams was duly served on December the 19th, 2023. And the service return has been on file in excess of 10 days. According to the record, Mr. Adams did not file an answer. Now, the state, as a courtesy, did send a notice of today's remote proceeding to Mr. Adams, and that is evidenced by the certificate of service that was attached to the notice. So, finding that Mr. Adams did have proper notice of the proceeding, he failed to appear. So, default judgment granted against Mr. Adams. All right, now as to the determination of disclosure of address based on testimony provided by Ms. Benavides, no orders as to the non-disclosure is granted at this time. And so Ms. Benavides will still be under the rule to update her information if it changes.
Okay.
The parentage was established by the acknowledgement of paternity. So I do find that there was an acknowledgement of paternity that was attached to the pleadings. As to conservatorship, finding that based on testimony provided by Ms. Benavides, it does rebut the presumption of joint managing conservatorship. Ms. Benavides is appointed as a sole managing conservator. She will have the right to determine the primary residence without a geographic restriction. Mr. Adams is appointed as a conservator with limited right. So he will have the right to receive information from Ms. Benavides, the other conservator. He will also have the right to manage the estate of the child if he creates that estate. All other rights will be exclusive to Ms. Benavides. I also find that based on testimony provided by Ms. Benavides that allowing access to the child would endanger the child's physical and emotional well-being. So no possession or access is granted at this time. I'm really concerned, Ms. Benavides, that Mr. Adams is, I know you testified he has not been physically abusive towards the child, but definitely he is affecting her emotionally, despite your intervention. And he's doing harm, I think, emotionally to your child if he continues that conduct. So if he wishes to have access to the child, he's going to have to request a change in this order.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or you can agree. I mean, it's up to you. But it's not going to be in the court order. Okay, gross earnings. I'm concerned about some of the evidence that was presented. It would have been helpful to have had the testimony from the witness as to the actual orders, not just an average, although the average is helpful. I think the state is requesting an amount of retroactive support that includes facts that were not part of the evidence. So I'm basing child support on the minimum wage presumption for current support. And so current child support going forward, starting May 1, with cash medical support of $57 and current support of $220. As to retroactive support, I calculated going back to October of 2019. So in 2019, 3 months at minimum wage was calculated of $231. That's the minimum wage amount. In 2021, used same 12 months at the minimum wage calculation, $231. In 2022, I based guideline support on the average income that was testified to by the witness. So that was 12 months at $703. In 2023, the first 9 months was calculated at the average of $2,756, and then the last 3 months was calculated at minimum wage. And then in 2024, the amount was calculated based on minimum wage. So the total on all of these months was $17,802, 17802. So that is judgment against Mr. Adams, and he's ordered to pay the judgment at $152 monthly until it's paid in full, and that will begin May 1st. Retroactive medical and dental support not granted. Court costs are assessed against Mr. Adams, and those will be due 12 months from today. And I think that covers everything. Ms. Nichols, did you have any questions?
Yes, Judge, did you say that non-disclosure will be ordered or it will not be ordered?
No special restrictions ordered.
Okay, thank you.
All right,